Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to cook an authentic restaurant style meal. And we're going to make it using some pork that I canned back in 2015. Alright? This is going to be a multifaceted meal. We're going to need some rice. We're going to need some oil, probably a flavor neutral oil. We're going to need a bunch of cilantro. And I got these from my Arrow garden and they smell very good. We're going to need 3 peppers. You can use green peppers or yellow peppers, orange peppers. I picked these up at Costco, so I figured I'd use one of these. We're going to need these to make the picadillo. We're also going to need a medium to large size onion, which I still have in my fridge, but I'll go ahead and show it to you once I chop it up. We're also going to need some sazon. We're going to need some salt. You know we're going to need some adobo. We're going to need some black pepper. We're going to need some pinto beans. Now, I find these to be very easy to have around because they have pinto beans, plus they have some seasonings in there, and these are really, really good. All right, so pretty much all we need to do is heat these up in a little bit of ghee until they soften up and they're ready to eat. So this is probably the easiest part of the meal to make. Now, ladies and gentlemen, to cook the rice, and I'm not going to show you how I cook it from scratch. I'm just going to show you the ingredients or the spices that I add to it. If you want to learn how to cook rice from scratch, go ahead and take a look at this video on your upper right-hand corner. But the spices we're going to add to our rice, and this is 2 cups of dry rice. There's going to be 2 of these sazon goya. We're going to add the equivalent of about 1/2 teaspoon of adobo. We're going to add the equivalent of about 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And we're going to add about 2 to 3 tablespoons of oil. A flavor neutral oil will work best. Now, if you take a look at the video that I put up in the right-hand corner, I'll show you how to go ahead and start this and finish it. For this, we're going to go ahead and add about 3.5 cups of water before we go ahead and set it to cook. As you can see, ladies and gentlemen, I went ahead and cut up all of my peppers, and there's half of my onion in here. So you can see that these peppers are cut nice and small. Same thing with the onion. This is going to be our picadillo, right? The next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our cilantro, and we're just going to cut it in nice small pieces. And an easy way to do this is to just use a pair of kitchen scissors. Once we're done with the cilantro, we're going to take 2 of our limes. Now, these are on the smaller side, so if you find big ones, you can use 1 big one. But these are on the smaller side, so I'm going to use 2 limes. We're going to cut them, and we're going to squeeze the juice into our picadillo. Now that we've got our lime juice squeezed into our picadillo, we're going to add a little bit of salt, maybe about 1/4 teaspoon or the equivalent of. Not too much. And we're going to add some fresh ground pepper. As much or as little as you want. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Our picadillo is done. All we have to do is mix this in really nice. Then after we're done mixing everything in, we'll go ahead and we'll cover it and put it in the fridge. This other onion right here, we're going to use with our pork. All right, and that's going to come up next. As soon as that rice is getting ready to get done, we'll cook the pork because it's not very long to get that pork cooked up and ready to serve. Now look at that, ladies and gentlemen. Doesn't that look pretty? We're going to cover this up now, and we're going to put it in the fridge. And we're going to save our other lime for after the dish is done. All right, ladies and gentlemen, while the rice is cooking, we can start preparing our pork. As you can see, this pork was pressure canned in 2015. We're going to open it up. Now, don't get grossed out when you see the very top part of the meat. The reason that that top part of the meat is a different color than the other ones is because it's not covered by liquid or fat. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with it, and it'll blend in just fine. So let's go ahead and make sure that we have the seal. And indeed we did. Now this is what the top looks like, but when I bring the rest out, you'll see how nice it looks. Let's go ahead and put it in our pan. We're going to put everything in here, ladies and gentlemen, even the fat, right? Even all of this fat that's there. And for you newbies out there, Don't make the same mistake that I made when I first started using my canned goods. Make sure that when you're taking meat out like this, that you use a utensil that's not metal. That way it won't scratch your jars. Because if it scratches your jars, that jar is not going to be any good for you to use for canning again, or for pressure canning. And look at all those big pieces of meat, ladies and gentlemen. That looks just great. We're not going to go ahead and tear it up that much. We're just going to separate the real big pieces to make sure that they're not too big. This right here looks good. And we're going to start our stove and start heating this up. Our goal is to heat this up to the point where most of the liquids are gone and that the meat is frying itself in its own fat. Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, all of the liquids have gone away. Now we're going to go ahead and take our onion that we chopped up nice and fine, and we're going to go ahead and put it in there. Now we're going to lower our heat. We're going to work these onions in, and we're going to cover this to allow these onions to sweat so that they can become somewhat translucent. And whenever you mix this, ladies and gentlemen, make sure that you fold it into itself. That way it doesn't become pulled pork and it still has some texture. Okay, so now I went ahead and lowered the heat. As you can see, it's not frying anymore. We're going to cover this with the lid and we're going to let these onions sweat it out. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so while the onions are sweating it out with the pork, we're just going to go ahead and get our beans ready to heat up. That way they'll be ready. Now I was going to use ghee, but I've got a little bit. I've got about 2 tablespoons of butter here. Might as well just use that up. It's not going to hurt whether you use butter or ghee. And let me see if this will come out on its own or if we're going to need a spoon. And look at that. Too easy. Now, what I like about these is that you really don't have to add any spices. You can add spices to it if you want, but you don't have to add any spices and they taste really good. So now what we'll do is we'll go ahead and put this on the stove and start heating it up until this pretty much turns into a paste. Really, that's what it is, like a paste. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we should be almost ready to turn the heat back on high. Oh, look at that. That looks great. Remember to fold it. Remember to fold it. So we're turning our heat back on high. And now we're going to continue to fold these over on themselves until they have a nice little crisp like that. It doesn't have to be all over. But those little crispy parts, you don't know how much flavor those crispy parts have in them. It's going to be delicious. I'm not really showing you how to do the beans because literally, ladies and gentlemen, all you have to do is just heat those beans in that butter until it turns into a soft paste-like substance that you'll be able to scoop out and put on your plate. Just like the ones that you see in your Mexican restaurants. Very easy. Once we're done with this, you'll see how easy it is to make an authentic Mexican dish. This is my favorite dish that I buy from the Mexican restaurant that I frequently travel. I try to go there at least once a month or so to make sure that I give them a little bit of business. A lot of really great guys there, by the way. Maybe one day we'll go ahead and introduce you to them. And like I said, this is one of the dishes that I go there and purchase, and it's my favorite. And for one serving of this dish at that restaurant, I think it's like $12 or $13. So as you can see, that pork that we took out of the jar that I pressure canned back in 2015, that was probably about $2.50 to $3 worth of pork, right? Because back then, pork was a lot cheaper than what it is now. So let's say it was $3 worth of pork. We've got an onion, we've got 3 peppers, a little bit of cilantro that I grew myself on my arrow garden. We got 2 cups of rice and some spices. And in the end, I will put a little bit of lettuce on the side. I didn't show you the lettuce because it's just some lettuce that I did buy at the store because the lettuce from my arrow garden stopped producing. So I'm not going to grow any more because spring is here and I've already got some starters going so that we can plant. But we're just going to keep this going until it's nice and fully cooked. Absolutely no water. We don't really want any water in it. Right? And it is going to stay nice and moist because it had a good amount of fat in there. So I'm going to go ahead and cover this up. Let it cook for probably about another 2 to 3 minutes. And then all we have to do is wait on our rice and our beans. Oh wow, that looks really good. Let's take a look. Oh, look at that. Our rice is done. And look at this. This came out perfect. That is what we want it to look like. Let's turn off the heat on the rice. And ladies and gentlemen, guess what? It's time to plate this. So I'm going to plate this, come back, and show you how awesome this came out. Now, ladies and gentlemen, look at that. That looks delicious. And I know it's going to be delicious. And this, literally, from the time that I started taking the ingredients out to now, it's been exactly 1 hour. And this made enough to feed 4 servings like you see here. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is a 1-a-day meal. And that's it. This will take care of you for the rest of the day because this is real food. Now the limes, traditionally, what we do with these limes is we put a little bit of it over the pork. It really brings out the pork flavor. And then once we put a little bit of that lime over the pork, we put a little bit of salt, just a few shakes, and we're good. And now, let's take a look and see what it tastes like, ladies and gentlemen. That rice came out perfect. The beans also. Let me show you what it looks like. Look at that. And let's give it a taste. Outstanding. We're going to get a little bit of picadillo here. All right, with a little bit of sour cream. You saw I put a little sour cream in there. And a little bit of pork with some beans. And let's see if some of this rice sticks to the beans. There you go. And look at that, ladies and gentlemen. This is outstanding. And let me tell you what. I love the restaurant that I go to, that I visit once a month or so. But this, ladies and gentlemen, I have to say, is much better. Let's give this a try. And ladies and gentlemen, that is delicious. Oh, guess who showed up after the food is done, ladies and gentlemen? It's all good. He's got to go back to work tomorrow. Victor, do you want to try this? Here, let me fix it for you. That way you can have a little bit of each. That way you can taste it all. A little sour cream. A little picadillo. Say hello, Victor.
Hello.
Let's give you some meat. And look at that. Oh, my goodness. Give that a try. What do you think, Victor? Tell me the truth. I see a look of satisfaction on your face. Is this better than the restaurant or not?
I could eat it.
You could eat it? Ladies and gentlemen, this is the second time in a row that Victor hasn't called my food garbage. Well, I truly hope you do try this because this is a hit. And guess what? I used pork that I pressure canned 6 years ago to make it. Outstanding, ladies and gentlemen. Having said that, I hope that you make this, and I hope that you let us know how you like it once you tried it. Right? Remember to be good to each other. When good people do good things happen. Stop eating the meat, Victor. Reach one, teach one, and repeat. If we all did this, the world would be a better place, and you know that it will be a better place. Many blessings to all of you and your families. This is Alaska Prepper. I am out.